and welcome to another Biddle on March 23rd, 2019. How's everybody doing?
Yeah,
doing
good.
Good.
No worries.
Great.
Fantastic.
Yeah. You know what this group looks like? It's a group that looks like they like Gnome. Come on. Welcome back, PC. Welcome back.
Thank you very much indeed.
We missed you.
Missed you guys. Yeah, I missed you guys too. It was I think I was ill for the double week with Europe and then Big Daddy. And then last week was a case of I was at the Reading meet with Popey and Wimpy, and a great time was had by all. So I got back to the hotel early, put the alarm on, woke up at 5 a.m. There was no way I was going to get on there. Yeah, and I can't blame the drink. I was only drinking from 1 p.m. And you can blame Wimpy for that because he turned up early, so we just got straight at it.
Yep. All right. Can we get a sound check from the chat, please?
Sound is good.
All right, good. We tried something different this week. Normally we do a distro challenge. This week we tried, and I'm going to say it's all Tyler's fault because he's the one that suggested it. We tried GNOME 3.32, the newest version, and everybody loved it. That's it. That's all we have. Everybody have a good night. Come on, Zeb.
Except for the show.
Zeb, what do you think of GNOME 3.32?
Well, I first encountered it, not 3.32, but GNOME on Solus. And that, for me, is my choice of desktop when I'm running Solus. I just like the way they implement GNOME. And then recently I did the Fedora challenge, and I thought, well, I've tried everything else. I'm just going to go with their standard GNOME. And hey, I thought, I like this. I could get used to this. And then I read up about GNOME 3.32, and I thought, wow, you mean it's going to speed up? It's going to get better. It's going to have all this goodness. So I installed Ubuntu standard 1904 on a daily driver and loaded it all up. And I quite like the wallpaper with the dingo, whatever it is, with the headphones on. And but what happened to the speed?
Really?
This thing is a bit like molasses. I can open up a file manager, and instead of it just going boop like it does on most desktops, it's like click.
Wow.
Click. Oh, there it is. So the experience is good. I'm getting used to the workflow. GNOME is not really for me because I can't see the point in clicking the menu and then all 35 inches of my main screen goes to, well, there's your menu. I'm not into that. I just want a simple menu. And I know you can change it, but the idea was to use it in its vanilla state. So I'm getting used to it, but I can't see the speed increase. I just don't know. I don't know where it's gone. And I'll get occasional freezes where I'll do something and then the mouse will move and it will click, but nothing's happening on the screen. And all of a sudden it'll go and it will catch up with all the clicks. So, and the other thing I'm really not happy with is Ubuntu or FFmpeg, one of the two, have messed up NVENC. So you don't get NVENC out of the box now with Ubuntu. Don't know what's gone wrong, so I'm hoping someone will come up with a script so that we can build it again. Because the other big problem I've got is OBS and American Trucks and ETS. On the very latest version of OBS, it doesn't work. Your road signs are black and your dashboard is black. Now, that's nothing to do with GNOME, but it's to do with the latest version of Ubuntu and the fact that it doesn't come with NVENC out of the box. So something's not quite right there. And I couldn't get an older version of OBS installed. But no, yeah, if I had to, I could live with it.
Now, do you think some of the issues with the speed could be due to the Ubuntu 1904 being in beta or what?
It could well be because neither Fedora or Solus are on 3.32. I think Solus is on 3.28 and I can't remember what Fedora's on. And I certainly didn't experience that sort of lagginess. But even if it is in beta, they're boasting that there are improvements in speed and memory loss. Now, I don't know about the memory loss because I don't really tend to look at memory because I've got 32 gig of it. But if I go NeoFetch now, I'm using 3.4 gig with a browser, Telegram, and Zoom open. So that's quite hefty, but I don't know if I'll keep an eye on it over the course of this evening as we do things. So no, I don't think, because normally the betas are pretty good. I've always used the alphas and tested them out, and apart from the very early days when Ubuntu was going LXQT, I've always found them pretty good and pretty stable. So yeah, I'll keep an eye on it. I'll wait another couple of weeks and then do another daily download and see if that hesitation is the only way I can call it has gone.
Well, one last question. Did you get to try out the fractional scaling? Does it work?
What fractional scaling?
It's supposed to have the ability to do fractional scaling.
No,
in this release.
100%, 200%. It's the usual.
It's only on Wayland. It's only
Only
on
on
Wayland.
Wayland, so integrated GPUs or AMD GPUs.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's only on Wayland. Also, you have to enable fractional scaling in G settings manually. It's still considered an experimental feature by the GNOME guys, so they don't have it in the UI by default. But yeah.
Well, I don't know if you could have it in the UI by default if it's just for Wayland, because half of your people wouldn't even see it.
Well, I mean, it still exists in the UI code. Like the UI can still be adjusted, because even if you're in Wayland, you see the same UI as X, and then if you enable it and log back in, you now see a different UI. So
yeah.
But I don't tend to need the scaling anymore, because I found that most OSs will have accessibility, and you just put on large text. So all of your borders suddenly increase and the text larger. And then if you just go to the desktop and change your font size anyway to 132, everything for me is perfectly readable. And that includes scaling this 1440 monitor to 4K. I'm having no problems using that method on distributions now. So I'm not that fussed about fractional scaling, because I can live with what I'm looking at.
Well, I've been doing the scaling part of it, and it's kind of like a hit or miss. So when you're in GNOME, like, everything's huge when it's 100%. I mean, huge. I mean, like, the icons are bigger than an iPad. You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. But yeah, so I was hoping the fractional scaling, but I guess that's not going to happen.
Not just yet, no.
All right. Dan, what'd you think of GNOME? I know you loved it. I read the Telegram group.
Yeah. No, not love. I made it go, though. I mean, I put some effort into it, and there's just some niggles that, as to use Nate's term, that just get me all the time. Every time I try it. Mm-hmm. There's some things I like, though, too. First off, I don't mind the application switcher, or whatever you want to call that, when you go up to the activities, or when you use the hot corner, whatever. That's not bad. Actually, I kind of like that a lot. And that's good. But as far as the application launcher, that really drives me nuts. The fact that it uses the whole screen, that just I always I don't really care for that. But that's just me. And then the other thing is the fact that, like, for Telegram, you have to enable one of the extensions in order to get your notification.
Yes.
That drives me nuts too. Why would you get rid of that? To me, that's a core functionality. You have a communication program, and you want to get notified when a message comes in, So that's just kind of a...
Well, everything that I read about that was that they were trying to force the developers to implement it the right way. Whether that's agreeable or not, that's the goal, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
It's still terrible, dude. I agree. It's still
everybody
terrible.
else seems to get it. So,
well, elementary's in the same boat, though. They don't do the notifications. Right.
Yeah, that's true. And so, yeah, that drove me nuts there too. It's just little things like that. They're like, and the fact that, I don't know, I think it's a little weird the way you have to add the extensions, and which extensions do you want to add, I guess, is really confusing, because there are a lot of them sometimes that come up when you start searching that claim to do the same thing, but they don't implement it real well sometimes. So weeding out the one that is going to work well for you is sometimes difficult, I guess. And sometimes you'll have the same developer doing a few of them that look the same, but only one of them is more current. So you really got to do your homework on that, I think.
Yep.
Were you guys playing with extensions? Because I thought the whole idea was just try and use it vanilla. Or did that just not go so well and you thought, no, that's it.
That's crazy, Zeb.
Yeah, I have to use extensions with Gnome. It's the point of it.
Yeah. I couldn't.
can't use extensions.
Yeah.
Linux is supposed to hurt, but not quite that much.
Right.
I didn't use many, no, right? So I ran it on Arch, which, that's about as vanilla as you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't use many to make it go, but I had to use a couple anyway.
Yeah, there's certain ones you need. I mean, you definitely need the top icons plus, I think it is, for the
top icons plus or whatever that is. Yeah.
Dash to dock or dash to panel, one of them I always install. User themes is another one that, I mean, if you want to change the theme, because you surely want to change the theme, unless you love Adwaita or whatever it's called.
It's the only one.
I thought the theming looked quite nice. I could live with this.
Well, it's better than it was as far as Adwaita. I mean, they did some improvements to it.
Yeah.
And I guess it is better, but I doubt it's the one you're going to pick.
Well, the user theme only changes the shell theme. It doesn't change the actual theming of the windows.
Right, but if you want your shell theme to match, you know what I mean.
Well, the shell theme normally out of the box is not too bad, though. It's normally a blackish type theme, isn't it? In most GNOME versions, I've noticed that the theme is pretty consistent, and it's bearable, to be honest.
I'll tell you one thing, though. It's not as quick as Solus is.
Right.
No, Solus implements.
Nothing is quick as Solus.
Yeah, the Solus GNOME implementation is awesome.
I noticed for me, since I run Plasma primarily, it pulled in my settings from Plasma, like the GTK settings I set in Plasma, I pulled those over. So I don't know. It must be sharing the same spot.
I take it you did it on the same home folder partition type thing?
Oh, yeah. It's OpenSUSE.
Okay. Yeah, but that would be why.
Yeah, that's cool.
Anything else you want to add, Dan?
No, I'm not switching. But
okay.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't super bad.
Okay, it wasn't super bad. That is an awesome testimony, right?
Yep.
Way to go, Gnome.
It just didn't win me over. I guess that's all.
Well, let's put it this way. I mean, it's been around forever. So if you don't like it by now, I highly doubt you're going to just install it one day and say, "Woo, man, I love this. This is awesome." You know what I mean? So I don't blame you, dude. All right, Adam. I know you like GNOME, though.
I do like GNOME, yeah.
And what do you think of the new version?
So I tried 332 on Fedora 30 for a while. Fedora 30 is not even like alpha. I think it might be alpha. I don't know. It's really early. But anyway, I liked it quite a lot. I did notice performance improvements on AMD, not on NVIDIA. On AMD, the X session was really smooth. The Wayland session was very smooth. And the Wayland session has a lot of niceties that won't ever come to the X version, I'm sure. Which I was able to experience those on AMD. I was able to experiment with EGL streams on GNOME with NVIDIA, but it's just not all there. It's not. There's things missing in there. But I did notice some issues with like window focus. So like I'd hit like, the Windows key and type in terminal, hit enter, and it wouldn't focus on the window I just opened, which is infuriating because all I want to do is, I don't want to have to grab the mouse and then click into the terminal, then type. Like that I had issues with window focus, and that drove me nuts. But
so where was it focusing? Was it focusing on where the mouse was, or have you not worked that out?
I didn't pay attention, but I think it might have been because
It was.
Go ahead.
It was all windows for me. It was every window that opened didn't seem to be in focus whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that. It was open. It was focused it was in the background every time.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and that was really annoying, like very annoying. I also noticed that in the settings app, I would apply settings and they would apply, but then like the button for apply would still be there, and instead of being able to go back in the settings, the only option was cancel, and I'm like, okay. So then I click cancel, and then it reverts my changes, and I'm like,
well, you canceled
all
it.
right. So exactly right. So then I'd go ahead and reapply them. Then I have to close settings and open settings back up. I don't know if that was a Fedora bug or not. I couldn't tell you.
I think they were trying to give you practice at using the
opening settings. I guess they just said, you're using your keyboard too much. Just use the mouse more.
Yeah, right.
And so those are my two biggest gripes. The design's still good. The new theme is nicer, a lot less muted. You can kind of tell individual components apart, like the title bars and things like that, which makes a big difference in my eyes. The scaling, NVIDIA, obviously on X, you're getting the 100, 200. With AMD on Wayland, I was able to enable the 150%, 125, 175, all that. So that was great. However, OBS under Wayland, you can enable, there's a plugin for enabling using the Gnome screen recorder as your recording source. And that's really the only way I was able to record. However, I have 4K screen, it was shoving it into like a 720p square. Nothing I could do to change it. Still got work to do on that. And also, Zeb, on the NVENC thing you were having issue with, that's a canonical thing. They no longer build NVENC into FFmpeg. I think they build it into the FFmpeg and the snap, and I think that's the idea going forward is they'll somehow integrate that snap instead.
Mm-hmm.
Or they want you to use the snap of OBS. Anyway, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, and the problem I've got with that is that the latest version of OBS, as I say, causes main problems on the two games I play. So I have to downgrade it, and when I downgrade it, I'm going to have to get Popey to build me a 19 version OBS if he'll do it for me.
Yeah, but as far as GNOME goes, I mean, I only had a couple complaints. Otherwise, it was a great experience. The performance was awesome on AMD. I mean, super fluid. Another thing that I got to add was I have a Magic trackpad for my desktop. I know it seems weird to use a trackpad on a desktop, but trust me, it's awesome. And the multi-touch gestures actually work out of the box on Wayland. So I could use like 4-finger swipe to move up and down in the workspaces. 3-finger swipe to go back and forth in a browser, things like that. That worked out of the box in Wayland. That was awesome.
So does that work on Plasma out of the box?
It works in that I can click and do things, but the multi-touch stuff you have to add like lib input gestures or something like that to it.
So that's a step forward.
Yeah, so Wayland's definitely come. The Wayland session is clearly the future, and it's still, I wouldn't say early days, but it still needs work. But it just seems like so much is still stuck in X. Like how do you get all that stuff in X to move forward?
Right.
And you can only do so much with X Wayland and all that. Games run okay in Wayland. There's some issues with some launching and some not, whereas they work perfectly fine in X. But as far as GNOME goes, solid desktop.
Very nice. Big Pod, what's going on with you and GNOME?
Tried GNOME, but didn't have a lot of time. Got my laptop back, so I'm happy now. But what I did try, I saw the new icon theme is quite beautiful in relation to the old one, which was crap. And resource stability was a bit lower than normal, what I normally see on my systems. So it worked quite well for me. I normally quite like GNOME, so it wasn't as foreign experience to me, and I don't know. It works well enough for me.
Well, you should have seen Big Pod when he came into the stream because he had like a grin from ear to ear because he had his laptop back.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Quick update on the usage. I've done absolutely nothing, and my memory's gone up from 3431 to 3700. And all I've done is type in the chat. So I'll keep you posted how much more it goes up later on during the day.
All right, Chris. Chris, are you there?
I'm here.
You're a GNOME fan. You admitted it. So give us the lowdown on the new version.
Well, I used it on Salient. I brought Salient back. I gotta say, Silent Robot's done some really good work with getting that up and running. And the thing is, I'm using 3.5, and I couldn't tell at first if I was actually using whatever he put in there as a default was XF CE, I think it was, or GNOME. Basically, because the wallpaper just kept going back to what he had set. When I went to GNOME org, I actually GNOME on Xorg. It was it worked a lot. I could tell that I was actually on, on GNOME, and I gotta say I'm impressed with the performance improvement. I know Zeb was saying that he didn't notice a whole lot of improvement, but from before what GNOME 2 and what GNOME 3 whatever was under Fedora, it was a marketed improvement under the distro that I had on here, and it seemed to work pretty good. I didn't get a whole lot of testing out done on it because, like I said, I've been playing around with other forms of technology this week, but I did get a little bit in there, and other than the wallpaper being a little bit dull, although I'm used to Fedora coming up with some pretty spectacular wallpapers, that's something that I can fix on my own, and it doesn't really detract from it. The Software Center still needs a lot of work, and because I'm not as familiar with Pac-Man, I was having a little bit of trouble getting some of the packages that I normally have. But I mean, other than that, that a little searching, a little internet searching, it was easy to find. So
Chris, you installed Salient just with its normal XFCE, and then you went and installed GNOME on over top of that, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Smoothly, seamless. It really was. Got Pac-Man to install GNOME, and then did a reboot, and then just hit the gear and said, "Okay, let's go with GNOME," and away we went.
Great.
Nice. Anything else, Chris?
No, nothing about GNOME. A couple little tweaks on the on Salient. He still has to fix those flags when we do a boot, because otherwise it doesn't boot to the partition. But that's nothing to do with what we're talking about today. So.
Cool. All right, Tyler, I know you've seemed to have enjoyed it because I've seen lots of screenshots from you in the Telegram group. So tell us about your GNOME experience.
All right, so I'll start with some of the positives. The GNOME shell, the overview you get when you press the super key, that is still one of my favorite features of GNOME. I wish we had a proper equivalent of that on the Plasma side. The updated Adwaita theme and icons, those actually don't look bad. They're much better than they were before. Another thing I always enjoy when I'm in GNOME is I actually enjoy a lot of the applications, because when you're in GNOME, a lot of those client-side decoration applications look and fit in really well with the environment. They like the GNOME calendar, weather, GNOME usage. Even GNOME Terminal now has the new version on 3.32 has that client-side decoration setups, and it's actually really nice. And with that, I'm going to move into some of the negatives. GNOME Terminal still has this annoying default behavior where if you press F10, it'll take you to the menu, and that runs into issue where if I'm remoted in something and I'm in HTOP, and then I want to shut down HTOP, that little bar on the bottom of HTOP tells you, press F10 to quit. Well, I do that, it doesn't quit. GNOME Terminal thinks, oh, it wants me to go to the menu because that's what it sets by default, and that is irritating. A terminal emulator application should never override what I'm trying to send to that terminal application, and that's frustrating. I tested it with Arch on my ThinkPad and Ubuntu Disco Dingo Daily on my desktop. On the ThinkPad, I do acknowledge that Sandy Bridge is aging, but it still felt sluggish compared to when I had Plasma on there with Kubuntu 1804. So maybe for machines that age, it's not the best. And even when I threw it on my desktop, I still get the occasional sluggishness. When it comes to applications seeming like they took forever to open for you, Zeb, I almost want to say that's because certain applications on Ubuntu now default to the snaps rather than the native packages. So when for example, I'm opening up GNOME System Monitor, that's going to open up as a that snap that's installed. So it's got to mount that snap and then run it from the snap rather than when you're running it from the native application, it just opens like that. I think that could make the difference.
Yeah, but I'm hoping they haven't made the file manager a snap, and that's where I was seeing the most lagging, believe it or not.
Weird. Yeah, I don't know if the file manager is a snap. I know the system monitor is, and that's what's giving me issues.
How many other programs in apps now?
It's about half a dozen, isn't there?
A lot, quite a lot.
Like the calculator, I know is a snap for sure. The system monitor, I'm not sure what else is.
Well, just pull Microsoft's calculator over because that's open source now.
Oh yeah, just bring it over, compile it, run it on Ubuntu. I'm sure that'll work really well. So I, like Zeb, I tried to run it as about default as possible, try to do the vanilla experience. So I did take advantage of the dynamic workspaces because typically when I'm in GNOME, I normally install an extension to give me a grid layout for my workspaces, but I didn't do that this time. It takes getting used to. I didn't mind it. It's actually extremely easy to create a brand new desktop by just dragging a window over to that sidebar to create a new desktop with just that one window. The one negative about that is when I want to, let's say I'm at the desktop at the bottom and I'm wanting to navigate back to the one up top that I have Firefox on, I'm navigating through like 3-4 other virtual desktops just to get back to the one I want to be at. So that's where I prefer my grid layout that I typically use in Plasma. It is much quicker for me to get where I need to be with my virtual desktops. Some Ubuntu specific issues, again, with certain applications being snaps, I did have to, they were a bit slower to launch. With the vanilla session, there are actually certain things I could not shut off. I actually had to install the GNOME in vanilla session just to be able to get rid of like the desktop icons extension because I don't like desktop icons or things like that. The dark variant of Yaru is great, but one downside, I eventually went Adapta because there's no Qt equivalent in Cavantum, so I wasn't able to get Quassel or Mumble to fit in. And obviously, that Disco Dingo wallpaper, that is a beautiful work of art. I think it sits up there with like the Hardy Heron wallpaper for some of the best Ubuntu wallpapers.
Nice. So overall, good experience?
Overall positive, but my final opinion is I think I'll stick with my Plasma setup. I've got more flexibility there.
Cool. Nice. All right, Vash, you're up.
So, since I'm on a particular distro this week, I have to say, by the way, I run Arch.
I love it.
I went with Salient this week and installed GNOME over XFCE, and it went perfectly fine. I had no issues once I realized I could just do it from PAMAC and install the basically the entire core there, and did that. I have not had any. I'm running this on a ThinkPad T430. I have not had any performance issues. It's ran fairly smoothly. I do notice when I check out HTOP that right now it's bouncing between like 2.8 gigs of RAM usage and 3.8 gigs of RAM, which I've only got Firefox and Zoom open, so that's a little much, but maybe that's just kind of like KDE does and taking up some space when you have it, because this thing has 16 gigs. So I'm really more of a person that I hit the Windows key or super key and I just start typing whatever application I'm opening anyway. So, I mean, I don't really care about the new desktop icons. Not really a big fan of not having some kind of dock, though. I had to go and turn that on. And then I realized that without those top icons extension, which I didn't know existed until we started talking, you can't actually get out of Discord without going to the system monitor and killing it or ending it. Because I was talking with some people last night, and I closed it, and I'm like, because you can go over and right click it on the bar, and you can click quit. And I mean, my experience, when you actually hit quit, it actually quits. But not the case.
That's a feature in
yes, that is a feature, and I do notice if you turn on that top icons, you get the little icon up at the top, and you can right click and quit there. But it's just really, really strange decisions for a vanilla install of a distro. That's something that I feel like you really need to have when so many applications like to have a little icon in the taskbar or whatever you want to call it. But I mean, beyond those weird things, it's been all right. It's not. I kind of like the dynamic workspaces. I'm not. I mean, to me, it doesn't really matter, but I mean, it's kind of nice to be able to go beyond 4. I'm sure other desktops can do the same, but yeah, it's been fine, but I do not see myself switching for this.
Cool.
Yeah, you can, and Plasma can have pretty much as many as you want.
Mm-hmm. All right, Barbara, before we get to you, I want to find out what Rocco's been doing with GNOME this week.
Well, okay, Barbara, how you doing? Yeah, my experience was very little with GNOME. That's all I'm going to say. Barbara, you're next.
Okay, I didn't have that much time this week, so I really didn't get to try it on anything. The other thing is I didn't know which distro to use, to try it. And there were like so many different ones. But I have one question that nobody seems to have mentioned before. If I remember correctly, GNOME only uses like one thread in processing.
Yes, that's correct.
Still that way?
Yeah, that's correct.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still that way. That's kind of sucky, isn't it? Yeah.
It's really slow on that matter.
That's what makes it probably slow.
Yeah, it'd probably take a whole rewrite, and I would expect that'd be.
Why didn't they do that in the first place?
Because it is easier to write single-thread programs than multi-threaded.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's what they actually stated, that they wanted to, for a start, write a single thread to make it work okay, then to go multi-threaded. That's what I read.
Yeah. So then, when it crashes, it's done. Then you have to restart the whole thing, your whole desktop.
If something in the whole chain of GNOMEs crashes, whole GNOME goes down.
Okay, that's what I meant.
Desktop. Yeah.
Well, fingers crossed. I haven't had it go down once on me yet.
Oh, you're lucky. So anyway, I didn't get a chance to try it because I didn't know which distro to check it with.
Okay.
So there were a number of different ones, and I didn't like most of them.
Mm-hmm. So before we think he's got away with it, we just want to check on why was Rocco?
Come on, Rocco.
Able to test it this week?
I was honest.
I didn't test it this week. I'm sorry. I mean, I know I should be the one testing it, but life was busy this week. I did not have time except for a few hours today, and it wasn't worth downloading and giving an opinion on for an hour's worth of using it. So it's not fair to give an opinion on that if you're only going to use it for an hour.
So you heard it here first. Rocco is mortal.
Sometimes. Always.
It's all good. You're forcing me to try it.
All I
Always.
heard was next.
Yeah, no. I love GNOME, and I'm so glad that everybody tried it because, I mean, I was afraid that you guys weren't going to give it, I don't know, an open mind. You know what I mean? And it looks like so far, everybody that's tried it has given it a really good test and tried to get used to it. And that's all you can ask. So,
cool.
Moving on. Frank.
Yes, sir. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
So I did this in a weird way. I think I mentioned in the Fedora thing that I used the GNOME implementation real quick and got really annoyed, as I normally do, and switched to XFCE. So when we started this out, I threw on the Manjaro GNOME install and was like, this is pretty nice. It's pretty spiffy and fast. And Popey said something about that he just updated his 1804 system to Disco Dingo. So I'm like, all right, that seems like something really intelligent I should do. And so that's what I did. I updated. I had a GNOME install that I had tweaked out to make it usable. So just so I could go to GNOME every once in a while. And ran the 1904 upgrade. And it was actually really good. It broke a few of the extensions that I used.
Oh.
And that was actually a good thing because I went through and I found the ARC menu and threw that on there. I was actually using something called the No menu or something. And I'm actually rather impressed. I mean, I do have 3, 6, 7 extensions installed. It works. It's actually pretty quick compared to what I'm used to with GNOME. And I mean, I made a bunch of changes, changed out the icons, just all the normal stuff, and it's actually fairly impressive. I mean, there are. Because I got the super key working, everything works like XFCE almost as much as I can make it. But it's actually fairly impressive. And I mean, this is just like an 1804 straight up to Disco Dingo, no crashes. It did break extensions, but it's actually working much nicer than I expected. I think someone's mentioned about the GNOME terminal, and I mean, I get rid of the GNOME terminal and put the XFCE4 terminal, which I do on everything. The only thing that's really strange, I think Seb mentioned he was having an issue with System Monitor. I took the snap off and then put the deb on, and it is much faster. So if that's something that anybody's going to use this with, I mean, I like the snaps, but there are some. They don't load as quickly right now as they probably will in the future. But it's actually much more impressive. But I came out feeling better about GNOME than I definitely went in.
I haven't found much corroboration on this, but my experience is that snaps are very slow as well. And every time I bring that up as a potential negative, most people go, they're not slow for me. So I'm very interested to hear how in this at least in this experience, we're sort of bringing that up as a touch point. And I know that they're going to improve that performance, but it is something that I notice on a regular basis.
I had heard that it's the initial opening that's slow, but then they're meant to speed up after that, but that's not been my experience.
Yeah.
Whenever you open up a snap, there is that, for me, I don't know, 4 or 5 second delay before it happens, and then you put that on top of the delay that I'm experiencing with GNOME anyway, and that might be some of the reasons why I think I'm waiting for stuff to happen, clicking other buttons, and all of a sudden it just goes and catches up.
In theory, yeah, it's the first time it should be firing up the virtual machine and all of that sort of housekeeping stuff in the background, and then in the future it should load faster. But 5 seconds is actually pretty good. I usually have much longer lag than that.
Oh, right. Okay.
And, you know, Zeb, from coming from running Peppermint or some lighter OS where you're expecting it to just pop open, you know, that delay is noticeable.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Anything else you want to add, Frank?
No, that's pretty much, I think everything's covered.
Cool.
Colin.
By the way, I use Arch.
I love it.
This week.
This week only.
But I got to say it. I'm using Arco Linux D as a base for this week, and I thought I would run the Eric scripts and install the default GNOME desktop and check it out as vanilla as possible. I did see a video from Esnix this morning. He used the mini ISO with Ubuntu. I didn't think to do that, but that would have been another better way to do it. I noticed that in the GNOME desktop now, they've got control over app permissions. So in the settings, there's an applications menu now, and it controls it's got just about every application installed. I'd say it is all applications, and you can you can toggle off and on notifications for applications. So I don't know how that actually works. I haven't had any notifications pop up. I probably haven't used anything to have that happen. It also enables you to work with the default handlers, what files it handles, although I haven't seen it. It's got like an unset button, but I don't know whether that's supposed to work. My other question is this a beta, or is this fully implemented, or is it still being worked on, 3.32?
It's out. It's released.
Oh, it's out.
It's actually okay. All right, because like Tyler was saying, I know that they're getting rid of the app menu up the top bar. So when you've got a focused app, you've got the menu in the top bar. Apparently, they're moving that out and putting the client-side decorations in. Now, I don't know whether that's going to happen with just the GNOME-specific applications, or whether that'll be all GTK applications. I don't know. Somebody more technical might know a little bit more about that. The icon set is quite nice, although I prefer Papyrus, but it looks better than what it was. And also the Adwaita theme looks more bearable, I suppose you could say, than what it used to as well. So they're the things I've noticed. And also it's got the granular nightlight control. I don't know if anyone tried that. It's got a nightlight control in there, and you can adjust the actual setting for that as well. So that's nice. That's a nice feature.
Yeah, they just updated that. You weren't able to set the color before.
That's correct. Yeah. So you can make it warmer or whatever it's called. Yeah. So they're saying the app menus are getting retired, but they're actually still there. So I don't know whether they're supposed to be there or not. That's why I'm asking if it was a full release or not. So maybe they haven't fully implemented that yet.
Yeah, it's meant to be one of the things that's gone, because what they were saying was if you've not got a distro that is expecting the app menus to disappear, then don't try and upgrade to it. But then when I spoke to Michael about it, he says, well, 99 times out of 10 people don't use the app menu anyway, so it's not going to be missed. Don't know whether that's true or not.
Well, normally I use it to check the about. So when I'm on GNOME Desktop, if I want to know about an application, you go to About, and that's where that normally is. So that's why I sort of know that it's there. And they're saying that the GNOME software is going to be a lot quicker, and they've said here that the app stream parser has been rewritten, but it will not be in Ubuntu 1904. So it's meant to pick up the snaps and all that sort of thing, but that wouldn't happen I don't think in Arco Linux. I don't think snaps are by default. The Flatpak is, but snaps aren't. So I haven't really sort of used it to its full potential yet, but I was just messing around with, just looking into all the new things, making a video about it and that sort of thing. So I don't know about the performance issues. I want to download 1804 and 1904 and see if there's any performance from startup to see whether you can see a difference. I want to try that as part of my video. So I think that's the only way to see whether there is a performance improvement there. So, and that's my experience for this week. Yeah.
Cool. Now, it's interesting because one of the things you mentioned there is one of the things that I meant to mention, and it's this new nighttime, and you can slide the controller.
Yep.
Works great on monitor 1 and monitor 2. Has absolutely no effect whatsoever on monitor 3. But then neither did the general nightlight when I was on Fedora.
Right.
For some reason, it only works on 2 of my 3 monitors. So one stays really, really bright, and the other 2 go nicely dim. So that's really, really strange.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I had that problem on Elementary too. Well, I only had 2 monitors, but one would change and the other one wouldn't.
I bet you there's like a Gcomp setting for that. And I know if you do Redshift GTK, you can set in the configuration file how it applies the setting and the coloration. And I think you can expand on how many monitors and all of that stuff very specifically. And so.
Yeah, I've just got so used to using XR and the minus brightness that I can quickly set. I can quickly dim all my 3 monitors to 60% or 70% or 80%, and I just find that easier than. I mean, you said Gconf editor, really? I don't know. I wouldn't even know where to go.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. All right. Who's up? Nate.
Cubicle
I'm
cake.
good now.
Or cubicle cake, as we should say.
Mr. Positive.
Yeah, so I had a interesting experience on GNOME. Now, I've used GNOME before, so it's not that like it wasn't new to me. I already knew what I was getting into. So so bottom line up front, I don't like GNOME. I think it's aggravating at best. But that's bottom line up front. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about the positives because I want to focus on the things that are positive about it. So the installation on OpenSUSE, of course, is super easy. It's like one little command, and then it's a pattern install. So install -t pattern GNOME, and it pulls everything that OpenSUSE says you need to run with GNOME. So the installation process was great. It actually only took up another 660.9 megabytes of hard drive space, which interestingly...
Say again what you're running this on?
OpenSUSE Tumbleweed.
Okay, all right.
So I already had Plasma installed, and so it just takes up an additional 660 megabytes of hard drive space, which I thought was interesting because when it's running, it takes up several gig. So so the scope of my evaluation was I'm going to ignore any little hiccups that exist because I want to only talk about the user experience, and I want to keep it vanilla, no extensions. So however OpenSUSE, which is generally pretty vanilla, throws it at me. I know a lot of fans of GNOME in the OpenSUSE community, so I figured it's going to be pretty decent, right? So,
hang on, this is GNOME we're talking about. That'd be silly. They make some really bizarre user choices.
Yes.
I was trying to get a rise at him. The man is just fine. Yep.
Yes, I agreed with you. Yes.
I think he meditated before this. He's very zen right now.
Actually, I had a rough night of sleep. So the started in Wayland. Want to try that out? It was great. I didn't see any glitching. It wasn't weird. It was very smooth, very buttery smooth. But some applications didn't work that I kind of expected to work. So I jumped over to the X version. Still buttery smooth. I didn't have any. It felt totally stable to me. It didn't crash on me. And now I meant to run it for a week. I got a late start, and I only could hang on it for about 48 hours. And I did have to take a break halfway in there to jump back to Plasma because it was that aggravating for me. And I'll get into that. So what I do like is the super key to display all the windows. It's very much like Plasma, going to the upper left-hand corner, and it displays all my windows. Basically the same thing, except you don't have a little prompt to type stuff. And it doesn't show the which desktop things are on. But outside of that, basically the same thing. I would use it the same way. Or Control F10 will do the same thing, but that's obviously less easy than just hitting the super key. I think that the color calibration per monitor device, that is a really neat tool. Very easy to use. It's very straightforward. So someone who's obviously like, photo editing, like someone I can think of, Wendy. Where's Wendy?
Yep.
That would be a valuable tool for her. But I know she uses something else that's like fancier and takes her hours to do. So, she's a professional. But for me, I have all Dell monitors. They all look the same. So I didn't really need it, but I thought it was a really neat tool. The notification settings configuration, that was a very intuitive, very easy way to, like, if I don't want to see any Telegram or Discord or whatever, I could just shut those off. And if I need to, or shut off all notifications. That I thought was great. I like how when you scroll down to the end of a list, how kind of like this little ambient glow going on. Do you notice that? That's a really neat little like user experience thing that I think it's a nice touch. Although that does work in Plasma too, but it's still a nice touch, and I like that. The hardware information is if you looked at like your hardware, like it'll tell you if you have like Thunderbolt or USB, whatever, and it gives you like a list. I like how it's a very user-friendly, easily digestible display of your hardware, and I thought that was really fantastic. I mean, it really appeared to my inner geek, and I really like that. So, the rest of my list, I'll make it quick. OpenSUSE does install by default GNOME tweaks, which I think Fedora does not when I tried Fedora, and I will say. Pop! OS does not either. I noticed, at least when I tried Pop! OS last. The if you have GNOME tweaks, so a non-sanctioned application or whatever configuration tool for GNOME, it makes it a non-terrible experience. I will say that.
A non-terrible experience.
Yeah. So the fact it didn't have by default a minimize button, because sometimes I just want to like kind of clear some windows away real quick. The fact that it doesn't have that by default, that makes no sense to me at all. I mean, like that doesn't pass the first line of let's think about this at all. Like I don't even know why that would be not something included.
So that must be an OpenSUSE thing because I've got minimize.
I do not.
Well, I mean, with GNOME tweaks.
Oh,
you
GNOME
have
tweak.
Not have it by default.
Yeah, it's a GNOME tweak function.
So
Yeah,
I
really?
think
So
Ubuntu actually
On Ubuntu 19.04 it doesn't because I haven't got
No,
GNOME
Ubuntu-
tweaks installed and I've got a minimize button.
Well, that's
Yeah.
because
Ubuntu tweaks GNOME before you ever get it.
yeah. Mhm.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't there in Arch.
So Nate, something that Rocco had mentioned last week about a user guide or the GNOME sort of workflow. One of the things that was an original complaint of mine years ago when they first came out with 3. The super key H in most distros will hide a window, and that was always the thing that was told to me. So if I said, not having minimized, so I'm just parroting what was always told to me. I also need a minimize button, but just saying.
And that is a great. I'm really glad you told me that. However, if you were let's say like a Bunsen Labs Linux, you give all those little shortcuts right there on the screen so that I know what to do to use the device.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So with GNOME, they're just expecting you to go dig into the documentation. And I did a little bit of that, and I didn't see the super H, but sometimes, actually more often than not, when I'm doing stuff, I'm working with my computer one-handed, just with the mouse, and so I'm not actually using the the keyboard. Sometimes the other hand, like I'm doing something else the other hand. All right, hang on here. So then the let's see. I noticed that Qt apps do not look as nice in GNOME as GNOME apps, as GTK apps look in Plasma. So so somewhere either they make an effort to make Plasma or Qt a second class citizen in GNOME. I don't appreciate that. It's very less welcoming, which I guess that's kind of part of the way they do things in GNOME. Maybe I don't know. The default sound applet in the corner is basically useless. I don't even know why. I mean, you have to use the pulse volume control if you want to do any kind of configurations. It's not like the Plasma, which is very useful. That's I think unfortunate. And I think the big topper here is there's no system tray that has like SyncThing GTK, which is an application I use in Plasma. that has an app that I would think that would have an applet or that would conform to the GNOME way. There isn't, or like TeamViewer, or like Variety. Variety kept running with the changing backgrounds, and I couldn't turn it off, so I just left it.
Isn't that what top icons is for, though, Rocco?
What's that?
For your for your bits that are missing on your notification bar on the top right hand corner.
Yeah.
If you'd have installed the extension top icons, they then appear.
Extension? Nope. Nope. No extensions.
No, exactly. I'm running cold as well. Yeah.
I'm not going to install any extensions because I am running it on. This is not disparaging against OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, but it's a rolling distribution. That means every time I upgrade or update it, it's going to be extension roulette. It's going to be, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. We'll find out. And see if it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so
that extension is not being maintained anymore anyway, so that's not going to work forever.
Oh.
So.
Right. So there we go.
Well, and sorry to cut you off. Not only is it not being maintained, they've actually removed. They continue each release to making it harder and harder to include a system tray. So they not only is the GNOME team squarely committed to not providing one, they're also against allowing others to do so as well.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And actually, Eric, you chimed in at the perfect time, so thank you very much, because that dovetails right into my summation. When it's if I wanted a desktop that has a workflow that works for a group of people, it's great. But because I'm not a usual person, I'm not really a conformist. I sometimes don't think the same way other people do. I like to move things around for the season or for whatever I'm doing. And so I like to optimize my workflow based on my activity. I had to use the different activities within Plasma for that purpose. And so I quite literally could not use GNOME in the way that would be effective for me and how I think differently from when I'm at work or at home or testing something. So because my workspace actually changes for that. So I would say of all the desktops,
big thumbs up for GNOME then.
Yeah, of all the desktops I've used in Linux, it's actually the worst.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Wow, dude.
There's an indictment. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's.
Yeah, back on the top icons thing, I noticed that Ubuntu ships something for systray icons by default, and even in 1904.
Yep, and they will continue to do that. I will be very surprised if they go away from that Unity look and feel.
Yep,
good, works for me. All right, Mr. Dreaming Wolf, you are up, sir.
I can honestly say that running GNOME was the highlight of my experiences this week.
Oh,
I tried to install Ubuntu 1904 on this rig twice, and each time, after half an hour sitting on looking for other operating systems, I said forget it. I tried. I had Salient installed, and I had installed the GNOME on that, but when I tried to log into it, it just kept automatically logging into XFCE, which I'm going to assume I screwed up something somewhere, because Salient has been great for me. Finally, I went on my laptop, I nuke and paved, went back to my old standard Arco Linux D, put in GNOME on top of that, and actually, GNOME ran nice. I didn't have issues with it. I knew that it was mostly keyboard-centric, so I tried to avoid the mouse when I could. The only issue I ran into that was, I'd get to a window and then navigating in the window tended to be kind of a pain without using the mouse. So it was nothing for me to hit the super key and start typing to get the program I wanted opened. But then once it was opened, I'd have to stop and go back and reach for the mouse to do stuff in the program. I personally like to have like a sys tray and notifications up top, and knowing that, You have to put in GNOME tweaks and whatnot to get that stuff in, and the little niggles like that. To be honest, if I'm going to use a keyboard-centric desktop that I'm going to have to end up tweaking with a lot of little steps anyway, I'm going to go with Awesome or i3 or one of the tiling window managers that I can just set up the config file the way I want. If I'm going to have to do it anyway, I'd rather be able to get it just the way I want from the ground up. But like I said, GNOME ran really well for me. I didn't have any issues with it. It wasn't slow. It's not for me.
Well, you had mentioned about using the keyboard to using the super key to just start typing to find applications. And Wendy was actually talking in the Telegram group today about how she was having issues. I think she was trying Manjaro GNOME though, where it was not finding what she was searching for. And I don't know if anybody else ran into that issue or not. So when she would go in to start typing settings, she wanted the actual GNOME settings and not the Manjaro settings, or vice versa, one or the other, and they weren't showing up. Now, if you just start typing settings in regular GNOME, you're going to get, like in Fedora, you're going to get everything plus. Right. So I don't know if it was specific to Manjaro or if it was something that I don't know if she was searching for specific files.
It would have to be Manjaro because in the Arco-based one, it came up, with all the different places where you could find the SETT, any app that had that in it came up.
Right.
My experience on Manjaro, and someone had corrected me on saying that Plasma does it correctly, but maybe it's Cinnamon that I noticed this, but if you just type Manjaro under the menu search, it doesn't come up. If you type hardware or settings or something like that, then it does show up. So something in the desktop file isn't set right for that.
I did notice that not all my applications did show up too when I typed it, which is actually why I jumped back to Plasma about halfway through my testing.
Switching between applications, the dynamic desktops were nice, super page up, super page down to flip between the desktops, or alt tab to just tab between all the open applications, jumping you to whatever desktop they're on. That all worked fine.
Yeah, I think that user experience thing is great.
All right. We have -3 minutes to talk to 4 more people about GNOME. So there you go. Peter, what do you think about GNOME?
Hi, my name's Peter, and I use Solus.
Solus GNOME, obviously.
However, tonight I am actually on GNOME. I'm running Ubuntu. Thanks, Frank, for the recommendation. I asked the Telegram group which ISO I could just install, which would have GNOME 3.32 on. And he recommended Ubuntu Disco Dingo. I love that name. It installed fine, actually installed great. One quick thing is I really liked it. Actually, during the install, I only have this PC on Wi-Fi, and it remembered my Wi-Fi password from install to actually running when I rebooted. So that was great. Not many distros do that. GNOME is running smooth. I've not run GNOME for over 6 years or so, since GNOME 2. So this is my first time running GNOME in ages. So I have no real experience from it. But what I see in the Ubuntu is fine. Eric did tell me that Ubuntu has the dock and the system tray, which I didn't know at the time that the vanilla didn't have. So I was, again, thank you, Frank. So, like Dan, I'm not fond of the full screen menu, basically how the whole operating system takes over your entire screen. To me, that's just weird. But I could work with it if need be. Because we're short on time, let me just say, GNOME is excellent for one thing and one thing only. It makes an excellent base for budgie.
Well, I think the idea of the full screen menu is not to take over your screen. The idea of the full screen menu is to take your focus off of everything else except what you're searching.
Yeah, but
So-
that's not my workflow. So.
Well, GNOME has its own workflow. You're just supposed to agree.
Yeah, it's definitely fall in line with GNOME.
Right.
Yep.
All right, Thomas.
All right. So, first off, I use Arch this week.
Yeah. Hey, Thomas,
Yeah,
you're a little bit low, brother.
Okay. I will try to fix that while I'm talking here.
Okay, go ahead. Continue.
Okay. So, blah, blah, blah.
You're like me. You can't multitask.
You can't
can you?
multitask, yeah.
Neither can I, dude. Neither can I.
Now you're muted.
Now it's worse.
Forgot to
Is
say
that
by
an
the
Arch
way,
thing?
by the way.
Thomas, we will get right back to you, okay? You work on your audio. We'll get back to you. Eric, go ahead.
All right, I won't take up much time. So I had the idea after I was playing around with Arch to install that Disco Dingo has 3.32, so I'll just do that. It's fine. Of course, it's Ubuntu. It's a Unity clone of GNOME, essentially, which has fixed all of the things that is wrong with GNOME, which is not having a dock or some sort of way to control applications and not having a system tray. My experience over the years in using GNOME have always been, even if I try to use the vanilla GNOME workflow, I slowly add pieces back. I'll add a minimize button. I'll add, a dock. I'll add, and then at the end of it, I'm sitting there looking at a screen that it might as well be any desktop environment, because now I've just added back all of the things that were missing. So that's my take on it. The GNOME team makes the decisions they make. Some people really like them. I think they're silly. And other than that, it's very solid. It's very pretty. They do some really cool things. And I'm glad that like they said with Solus, I'm glad that other DEs can take advantage of that and put them to their full potential.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. They do a lot of good things. They also do a lot of not so good things. And that's the way it is for almost every DE out there. There's a lot of good points and a lot of points that, just aren't for whoever's using it. So, yeah.
I mean, I will say that if you did not have the ability to use tweaks and extensions, that it would be very difficult, I think, for most people to use GNOME as is. And I would be curious if there were any sort of telemetrics to tell people, to tell, or maybe there would be a poll somewhere, do you use just stock vanilla GNOME with nothing?
There are Bigfoot sightings of people who use GNOME stock. I've talked to a few people that they don't never install extensions.
Okay.
But that's very far and few in between.
Yeah.
And all their time is usually spent in an IDE coding.
Okay. Granted.
Eric, I agree completely that I have no idea how you could really use this in a workflow without extensions. I really, really don't, unless you're really just opening up a terminal and never looking at the desktop.
Well, Nate made a good point about, if they wanted me to use these keyboard shortcuts, why don't they have it in front of me? I will throw out one plug for Pop! OS for anyone who's not tried it. If you want to try a GNOME desktop that I feel has been manicured and tweaked in a way that makes it usable, but still adheres mostly to the GNOME principles of workflow, Pop! OS does a fantastic job of that. And if you have a laptop and any NVIDIA drivers, they also do a really good job with that. So.
All right. Thomas, did you get your audio working yet?
Does that sound better?
Yes.
Oh, my. All right. So after I got GNOME installed in Arch, it was stock, of course. And personally, with the shell theme with GNOME, because there's that multiple different ways you can theme it, and the shell theme is one of them, I prefer the stock GNOME shell theme. But otherwise, I ended up changing the icon theme and I gave it the dark Adwaita because I needed a dark theme because it was searing my eyes out. But otherwise, as a former GNOME user, it was like a breath of fresh air coming back from XFCE to GNOME. And it did feel just the slightest bit faster, but I'm not going to say definitively whether that was actually GNOME or not, because this being my first time using Arch, I did notice that Arch itself was faster. So it could be Arch, it could be GNOME. I won't make a decision on that. Initially, a lot of the extensions I use were not working, but by the end of the week, most of the extensions had gotten updated and were working. So that was really nice. Other than that, it just felt like normal GNOME to me. I didn't notice that many differences. I didn't notice that the application, the app menu that you get when you open up an app was missing, but that was probably because I wasn't paying much attention. Overall, yeah, it did feel a little bit faster, but that could have just been Arch. So, but Arch was nice. Other than having to install it myself.
Do you still have it on?
I still have Arch in the VM that I was testing it in, because I'm not installing Arch natively. Not when I have something that's mission critical that I need to keep running. But I do still have it in the VM running because it is nice and it runs really fast, and it's probably the fastest boot up I've ever seen. Is literally like boot up the VM, 5 seconds later max, and it's running.
Nice.
Prophetic, do you want to get in any words on GNOME or what?
Yeah. You guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you're a little bit over modulating, but
okay. Let me back up then. So I was impressed by the performance enhancements from like 3.30 when I tried it on Antigros. And 3.30 to 32 or 3.32 definitely feels like even this is a bit snappier. Overall, though, it is like impressive what they've done. It's just still overall can't, for me at least, it's faster, but my plasma is the fastest. It's just like you can't compare in terms of speed. So while it's impressive what GNOME has done, it's GNOME still, and it's terrible, dude. I mean, I love what they're doing, concept wise, but I'll tell you this though, I was being a little negative when I first heard about the challenge, and I was like, well, you can't put lipstick. You could put lipstick on a pig, and it's still ain't gonna be pretty. But the enhancements that they've done, it was impressive. Like, I'm really happy for them. So if you love a GNOME, I'm sure you're gonna love it even more so because it is very snappy.
All right, that's what we got on GNOME. We went a little long on the GNOME subject, but Aris has a question for all of you guys in chat. So he wants to know everybody's opinion on GNOME being the default DE in the major distributions like Ubuntu, Fedora. Does this help or hurt when converting people to Linux?
Well, I think what you've seen with Ubuntu is that they continue to put their own changes, like Zeb said. He didn't even realize the minimize button was something that wasn't available without a tweak. Mm-hmm. And I think for distributions like Ubuntu who notice and recognize those shortcomings and are willing to make those changes, then no, it probably doesn't hurt them. But for Fedora and others where it's just, Fedora especially is just nothing but GNOME. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you didn't know it and you were coming in especially from a traditional DE paradigm like Windows, yeah, that would be very shocking.
I agree with that. I think the average user would just go, what is this? I've never seen this. Doesn't make any sense, because it feels like it's, from what everyone's saying, it's missing some basic features, and they're not going to know, oh, I can go out on the web and pull down extensions. They don't know that, because in Windows and on Mac, you don't do that. That's not in their worldview. So I don't think it's really good for beginners that way. Beginners, newbies to Linux, let's put it that way. Unless the distribution itself, they really put a lot of additional stuff back in that the GNOME developers take out.
And what's really strange about that is this is from a Mac user who's only got one mouse button. What
most people
is all that about?
MacBooks use like a Logitech mouse.
Right.
That's what I use on my MacBook Pro. or it's got a really good trackpad, and that's the thing, you can get by very well without a mouse. But I'm a keyboard oriented person, so I use a lot of the keyboard commands. That's why I loved Unity. And I can do that with Mate, but I just don't think, I mean, I've seen screenshots of GNOME, and from what everybody's saying, I think it would chase people away. I really think it would.
Stock GNOME, but being as most of them are going to come to Ubuntu anyway, they're not going to find. I don't think many new users are going to go to Fedora.
No, I don't think so.
No, they're not.
I think the people who are coming to Linux are typically people who are tired of Windows and want something different. They're not necessarily wanting to just, I want to go to Linux, but I want it to be exactly the same. Like, I feel like a lot of those people are trying something new, trying something different.
Well,
and when they encounter GNOME, I don't think they're really all that put off. They're like, hey, it's something new, something different.
I think that's the difference between somebody actively seeking something different versus someone being handed Linux.
Yeah, I don't thrust Linux
being
on
handed
something
different.
I care about.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, and I think Adam, I think what that situation was a lot more prevalent 20 years ago with the people trying to get away from Windows then. A lot of the people nowadays, especially with Windows 7 going out of support next January, they're looking for something where they don't have to buy, but they don't want an alien experience.
Yeah, possibly.
So 20 years ago, GNOME was popular because it was different. Now people just want something that they can just drop in and keep using the way they have been using Windows without having to deal with Windows.
Well, and I agree with Adam in that you want to be able to highlight the differences, the important differences, but you also can't alienate someone to a point where they no longer feel like they understand what's happening, right?
Yeah.
And a good example of that is something that I've always hated about Windows is I can't pin a window and make it sit above other windows. It's such a dumb, simple thing, but when you're trying to do 3 different spreadsheets and all this different stuff, why the hell can't I just pin this window? And then that's someone, if you have that situation and you come to Linux and all of the DEs have that ability, you're just like, wow, that's amazing.
To touch on what Eric and Barbara were saying, so if you go out and look and say new user Linux, it's going to tell you Mint. Some of them are going to say Peppermint, and a lot of them are going to say Mate. And that means Ubuntu's base operating system is not what people were recommending. So if someone throws on Fedora or Ubuntu and it looks really weird, it's kind of like, what are you trying to do? And you are really in a really opportune time with the Windows 7 rollover to get people coming to Linux. And I know there are some weird things about Mint, but for a new user, throwing cinnamon on them, throwing Mate on them is really, if my dad is going to go, hey, I want to get rid of this, I'm going to throw Mate or Mint on his system. And it's kind of a really weird place where what is kind of Canonical really doing with their desktop? Why are they pushing, I know Unity, and then they switched. And it is kind of weird that the 2 leading distributions for Linux push GNOME as the main D.
Debian does as well, right?
I really think I really think they should, like, if I were running the Ubuntu levers, I would actually make Mate the primary desktop environment because that has the ability to go between different look and feels very, very easily. And I think you're not going to alienate people as quickly. So I think it's just for me, if I'm going to install Ubuntu, it's going to be Mate.
I think in my opinion, the reason why they wouldn't have picked Mate is because GNOME had the bigger team to develop and advance it, where Mate is a very small team. So to ask them to make certain changes to be the default desktop for Ubuntu would take a lot.
And at the time that the transition was made to GNOME, Mate was still primarily GTK2, and going from Unity to Mate at the time would have been a regression in things of support for high DPI, or basically anything that GTK3 supports but GTK2 does not.
I think we've got to remember how involved we are with Linux, and we talk about how Mate's got these changes and all that, whereas people from Windows, you've got to remember, if you remember how you used to use Windows, you just know how it works. You don't play with things. And I think a lot of people, if they come over to Linux, I think it's hard to compare Ubuntu GNOME with all the other GNOMEs, because Ubuntu GNOME has sort of tweaked it a bit more for the new user. So I think they've sort of nailed it a little bit there. So new users will figure out how it works, and they're not going to play with anything. They just want their desktop to work, and they're getting away from the daily frustrations of the ridiculous updates and all that sort of thing. They just want a desktop that works, and that's how most Windows users pretty much use their desktop. So
Colin is absolutely right. I recently had the opportunity to move a Windows user to Linux on a very low-scale system, and I looked at the distros out there and chose Peppermint. I know Steve's about to grin. I chose Peppermint and put her on it, and she went to it no problem at all. Easy transition, and she's using it now.
I think for a lot of people, as long as they can find the Chrome icon, they're happy.
Yeah,
but this is true. I mean, Tyler, that is not far off from the truth.
Right.
There are many users out there that don't care 1 ounce about tweaking. They don't care 1 ounce about what operating system they use, as long as they can browse the internet and check their email and talk to people on whatever social media they have. That's about all they care about. So,
well, and also, hey guys,
JJ,
hi. So, I would probably go as far as to say that there is a different dichotomy for some users, because there are some users who are Windows majority but play with OS X when in their workspace or something. But when they transition over to Linux, they want to make it more like OS X than Windows, if that makes any sense.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many. Again, I'm going to go back to what Tyler said. I don't know how many people are concerned about tweaking. When you're talking about Windows users coming over or Windows users who dabbled in Mac, I don't think they're really concerned about tweaking. If you're concerned about tweaking, you probably already tried Linux.
I think the average Linux, I think the average Windows user, I mean, their idea of tweaking is, oh, I can change the way the color of the menus or the color of the background. That's about it. Yeah. They're not used to all this other stuff. And I agree, all they want is something that is familiar enough for them and it works.
Yeah.
So
well,
that's it.
Yeah. Well, how much of a
5% of the people?
Well, how much of a force do you think Linux did into giving Windows the freedom to actually expand their options of customization? Because it used to be that you only got a dark theme if you were on Linux. None of the other operating systems actually did that setting.
I think you'd also be surprised how many Linux users don't tweak. They just use it because it's a free operating system. Only geeks like us that love messing about with stuff.
Two of my friends that I got on Peppermint, they have not changed their desktop. They have no issue or no thought of changing it.
Right.
But then if you look at now, though, if you look at the Windows 10 update that's coming up in April, look at all the tweaking that's in it. You know, it still doesn't look really great, but they're getting better. But now they're able to go to a dark theme easier.
Now, Steve, you're talking about these two friends. Would those two friends be open to trying GNOME? I mean, would they enjoy something like GNOME, or are they don't really care?
I don't think they really care. I mean, I would have to ask. I mean, one's my brother-in-law, and he's been on. I got him on Peppermint when back in Peppermint 7, so he's been on it for about 3 or 4 years. My other buddy, who's been on it for about 8 months. Actually, I'm hoping to have him on my show on Sunday because he brought up a couple of things, and I want to talk to him about how he's doing with it. But so far, he hasn't. He said he's not thought about looking at another distro. He's just happy with the way it runs. You know, I'll throw it out at him, but
right. All right. Anybody else want to chime in on Ubuntu, GNOME being default in Ubuntu, Fedora? Anything else?
I just want to make a note on the Peppermint thing. You don't have to tweak the way Peppermint looks because it looks right.
Oh,
wow, dude. Wow.
Nice, Nate.
$10 is in the post, my friend.
All right, so that's all the talk we should do about GNOME. We should move on. What do we want to do for next week? Do we want to try a distro? Do we want to stick with the DEs and move on to another one, or?
I think it's kind of hard to ignore the big distro release that we had in the last week. And I see Peter with his thumbs up.
I wonder which release that was.
Zorin OS, obviously.
Zorin OS.
It's obviously Zorin.
Solutron?
No, wasn't it SUSE Corporate that came out?
Oh. Wait, I thought finally Hannah Montana Linux got updated.
So I take it, Peter, that your choice would be Solus 4?
It is a brand new ISO. It is prime for testing, but we did recently do it. So
how long ago did we do it?
I don't have the notes in front of me, but
I don't know.
99999 weeks ago.
I know the team would welcome the input. Huh?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I've already downloaded it, so I'm in for that.
Well, look, it doesn't really matter how long ago we did it if everybody wants to do it. So let's get a show of hands. Who wants to do Solus 4?
I'll try it on my laptop again.
I'm planning on doing it, but I'm on it right now. I'm a little late into the game, but I just did MX18, and wow, I'm so far impressed from the get-go.
You do have Budgie, GNOME, Mate, and you also have Plasma, which is a testing ISO, but I'm actually running it too, and it runs fine. Huh?
Peter, I wonder what Michael Snell's going to run.
I had run the Plasma ISO before, and it was running good then. So yeah, it doesn't really matter what DE you choose.
That was an update to the Plasma, right? You guys just released another update, because if you did,
there is a new testing ISO. I can't remember what was changed. There is a new testing ISO.
I've already looked at 4 just it's very quickly, and I have to say, Budgie hadn't in the past compelled me. There's something in this release. There's just enough polish and changes. I like that tray. There's some pretty cool stuff in there that's definitely worth looking at. So
it looks nice.
Yeah, it really does.
All right.
Middle of December was when we last tried it. 15th of December.
Yeah, that's a couple of months. That's plenty of time.
That's 3 months.
Plenty of time.
There's no names.
It's a whole version ago.
Well, it's actually a point. 0 point.
Point zero.
.001.
I don't have enough fingers to count the zeros.
I do have a question for Adam, though.
All right.
What is Fedora 30 looking like? Is it something that's going to be good out of the box, or is it something that we're going to have to wait for?
I think it's still too early to tell.
Yeah. Okay.
When is it scheduled to release?
It's still on 3.2.
I want to say like May or June.
Planning on going to 3.2 when it gets back from vacation.
When was the last time Fedora actually released on schedule?
Okay, so they say May or June. I can't remember. So probably somewhere in October.
They're planning to release it
29 release on
7th of May.
I think it
But the preferred date is last of April, but their first target is 7th May.
Yeah.
Which means probably June.
Yeah.
But going back to Solus, if you are going to do Solus GNOME,
no, it's not.
No, but what's the fuss? I can't see the difference between Solus GNOME 4 and Solus GNOME 3.99999. They just work. I don't see anything fancy, fantastic, great. It's there and it works. So it must be Budgie that they put all the work into.
Yeah.
But as I said, the GNOME edition is at 3.28, and Joshua is currently on holiday in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be working on 3.32 when he gets back.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
It would be awesome if we could get some of the Solus guys on here, talk about Solus then next week. That would be cool.
You could reach out. There's not many that come public, but yeah.
So are we doing the budgie? We doing the budgie or whatever we wish? Which
It doesn't really
Whatever
matter.
we wish.
It doesn't
They
really
only
matter.
have 3 choices. They've got Budgie, Gnome, and Mate.
Well, they
Those are
also have the
desktops.
testing.
And they've got a testing.
They got a
page.
plasma.
I'm on their website and I don't see the testing one.
It's in the blog
It's
post.
not on
So-
that site.
You'll only find it on their forums, I think.
Oh, okay.
So I know I mentioned this already, but I'll say it again. In the past, Budgie didn't do much for me, right? I've tried Ubuntu Budgie, I've tried Budgie on Arch, I've tried Budgie, and a lot of different flavors of underlying OS and all that. So there's something about it in this 4.0 release that really finally has made me interested in.
Oh,
I can agree with that.
I'm going to try Budgie this time around. But
too.
I've tried Solus Budgie before, and I've tried Ubuntu Budgie, and actually just 3 weeks ago, maybe at the most, I installed the latest Ubuntu Budgie again. And I've always loved Budgie for its defaults. I mean, it gives you that feel of a modern desktop. The one thing that I think brings Budgie down to me, and maybe it's no problem for anybody else, is the menu itself. The Budgie menu, I just am not impressed with at all, and I think it just detracts from what is a really great system.
So
because it's a mediocre menu.
Yeah, and I think that,
over Gnome's whole screen.
I think that could be somewhere that you see some improvement. That the tray icon, there's Raven notifications, sound settings. There's a lot of small ease of use tweaks that I think really what jumped out at me.
Yep. And I can speak as a current Ubuntu Budgie user. It's not too bad, and I think it's gotten faster ever since those GNOME tweaks were put into place or something.
Well,
because it's fast. Yeah.
I'm sorry, JJ. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying for I think they tweaked something recently where the last time before this time that I've been using Budgie, it was slower than when I was using it now, which is it's significantly better than when I remember using it. So,
well, I think the major difference with Ubuntu Budgie and Solus Budgie is templates that are not there in Solus.
Yeah.
That are there in Ubuntu Budgie. All right.
I just wanted to say one thing, Rock. I was following Solus for quite a long time ago, and because Budgie was their flagship desktop, I was really, really excited about some of the changes I was hoping was coming forward, and it never happened. So, and it disappoints me that the Mate got a lot more. They put their the brisk menu in the Mate and all that, which I was hoping they were going to do those little tweak things in the Budgie desktop itself and with the menu, like you mentioned, which really never happened. So I think hopefully this time Solus 4's got a few little tweaks catching up to Ubuntu Budgie a little bit, and I'm hoping it's got some more something that's worthwhile looking at, really, this release. So...
Yeah, They did a lot of that work on Mate, though, because there was a lot of collaboration at that time between Wimpy and Ike.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But Colin, I will say the core team now is doing a great job catching up after all the developments of last year, which we won't go into, but they are doing a great job in catching up.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's continue this week with some people's stories in where they started in Linux. And Deb, did you or did not talk to you about it?
I don't think I've mentioned how I started, but
do it. Where did you first hear about Linux?
I was working for a company, and it was, I don't know, probably about the 1994, 95. And they were predominantly running Novell at the time, and they just bought a huge influx of Unix equipment. So some of the guys there who already knew Linux started to talk about it and chat about it in what they could do. And here we are merrily working away, and the only thing I can remember about Unix was killspace -9, probably the most dangerous command that you can use. So we went on our merry way, and then we realized that running all this Unix stuff was just prohibitively expensive. Just maybe we got stitched up by a company or what, I don't know. But then we started the migration over to Microsoft. So we're sitting there doing all of our day-to-day work, and I'm trying to use Access and Excel to extract all of this information. And one of the really clever guys, well, hang on a minute, give me the files. And he did something with Orc, and about 25 minutes later, he produced this report that had taken me 3 weeks to do with Excel and Access. And I went, well, how did you do all that? And he went, oh, it's this stuff called Linux. Look, go and have a look at Ubuntu. And by that time, I guess it was 2005, 2006, when I first looked at Ubuntu. You don't want to hear what I said about it. Next is mild compared to my first experiences with Linux. It was, if you want to learn Linux, expect to spend hours in forums speaking geek and all sorts of other weird statements, and it just wasn't for me. But I kept going back to it and forwards and backwards and forwards. And I guess the very first one that I felt was usable was Linux Mint 10.10. Did they do a 10.10? Was it a 10? Yeah, it must have been a 10.10. But it was around about that area, which I'm guessing is 2009. Something like that, 2009, 2010, I can't really remember. And then, again, it was still, for me, way too geeky and not going to be mainstream. And then all of a sudden, 2014 came along, Ubuntu 14.04, Voyager 14.04, Peppermint 6, and I was like, wow, I can actually use this now. This is now something that you can just get a distro, install it, and it works.
Hey,
I won't tell you how many times I hosed my Windows installation learning partitions, but I became a Windows expert on installations, that's for sure.
Ubuntu 10.10 was Maverick Meerkat in October of 2010.
Well, there you go. So that's where I started. And funny enough, I also found myself on PC Linux OS for a while. And I found that to be really, really good. But I've always been a distro hopper. And the one distro that was going to stop me was when I found Peppermint 6 and met the team over at Peppermint, and then Peppermint 7 came out, and it was like, that's it. This is my distro for life. And I do lots and lots of experiments, but I never hop. My main SSD has got Peppermint on it. If I hose my system, the first OS I put back on is Peppermint. So I've had a bit of a checkered entry into Linux from Unix. Didn't like it at the beginning, but now I wouldn't use anything else. And I've only got Windows on my machine because I'm like the technical support for the rest of the family. So I have to keep a heads up and understand what's going on. But I try to get people to change. I've only ever had one person change from Windows. The other guys just felt it wasn't right for them. And I couldn't understand why, because you click a menu, you click Internet Explorer, and you go onto Facebook. Next, what else do you want? Or what does the average Windows user want? Or so it appears anyway.
Yep.
So that was my saute into Linux. The first 5-6 years, no, it was a pile of poo. And then from 14.04 onwards, it really became usable. And it's gone from strength to strength.
So are there any programs on Windows that you have to have, or everything you have is switched over to Linux?
If I could ask for one program to go over or to come over, it would be Void Tools Search Everything. Because I've got 50 terabyte of external hard disks, yeah? And I wait maybe 6 minutes, instantly find anything on any one of those 50 terabytes. On Linux, I then have to wait maybe 15, 20 minutes for it to build the database with Update DB. And then a search might take 6 or 7 minutes to find what I'm looking for. But apparently there's this hidden tool on NTFS file systems that Void Tools have got attached to. 5 minutes later, it is literally, as I'm typing, it's bringing up what it's finding on the databases. So if they could bring that sort of search speed over to Linux, that would be fantastic.
Search Everything is pretty awesome, I have to say.
Yeah, that would be the one tool that I miss.
Have you ever tried Catfish?
You want to go to the toilet, mate?
Frank, go ahead.
Did you ever try Catfish? Because I use everything when I use a Windows box, and Catfish is very, very similar.
Yeah, but it still relies on the same update DB, and it's still as slow.
Okay, it does rely on the update. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
had
yeah,
much better.
yeah.
But then again, I don't have 50 terabytes to look at. So.
Yeah, I mean that's just me being stupid when I was a bad boy. But hey,
All
that's
right.
that's the only thing I miss.
Chris, did you want to ask something?
Yeah, coming from the enterprise side, the thing that I missed most about Linux is something equivalent to like a group policy editor, because you can control the machines, you can control the desktops from a central database based on group and user policies, what you need and want them to do. I don't see anything like that in Linux other than having to go through each individual service on each individual machine. And is there any, that along with .NET, I think really is kind of what's hindering us from moving into a client side on the enterprise. Anybody seen anything like that?
No.
There are some tries using, I don't know what it's called, with free IPA, but it's nowhere near Microsoft's Active Directory, what they have. It's nowhere near close.
Yeah, group policy
free
editor can really
free IPA.
lock your machine down. Sorry, Dan, go on.
That's okay. Free IPA does try to emulate Active Directory, but you're right, Big Pod. It's not the same.
Over there.
To such an extent now that I've got a new Windows 10 laptop because we're just trying it out at work, and they've set the screen timeout to I think it's 900 seconds. So because I'm working on two different machines, on the old Windows 8 machine, I could go in there, go on there as a local administrator, hack into various bits and pieces, and I set it to unlimited. They have now nailed down the group policy editor that tight that even my X account can't change it. It's a corporate policy. If you've not used your machine in 900 seconds, it will power down, not power down, but it will lock you out. And then Skype, which is up, will put you as away. And I think they've done it because there was a lot of home workers that were logging on in the morning and then just walking away and then logging back off at night. And you couldn't tell whether they were or weren't working.
Well, we have that going on at our business also, but that's more of a compliance directive because of all the government contracts and all the stuff that we're involved with, that we cannot have our screen open for more than I think it's 5 minutes without it having some activity on the computer. Now, if you walk away and 2 minutes later someone comes by and starts playing with your machine, then that's kind of defeats the purpose. But by the same token, if you're using your standard user account, which 99% of the people are, they're not going to be able to get anywhere other than what that person has been given permission for anyway. So, it's a good and bad thing.
Right, but you shouldn't walk away from your computer in a workplace without locking it unless you want ponies as your wallpaper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I'm a brony, so I don't care.
There is one company, I think it's Centrify, that makes a sort of group policy for Unix and base systems, Linux, Macs, but there's nothing truly like a GPO out there.
There are basically many attempts, but none of them are close to what Microsoft offers.
All right, Big Pod, we might as well go along with you and where you started in Linux.
Okay, so this story might be a bit long. I started first start really was when I was 12th grade, It was when I first heard of Linux before, but first time I actually tried Linux. Okay, tried server because I wanted to learn server because at the time I knew I was going to go to computer school and wanted to know Linux because I heard it's a lot used in servers. But well, I was 12 and I was Windows user and I didn't like terminal. So I said, gonna wait a couple of years. I'm gonna have to learn it anyway. So it was 3 years later. I started using Ubuntu. I don't know which one. I don't remember which one it was. It was like 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 years ago. So I don't really know which one it was, and I learned so much that I could like install stuff and do certain things. And I actually did try desktop. I believe it was Unity. I don't know what was the main thing back then on Ubuntu, and it was like in first couple of minutes I was like, next. I don't like this. I hate this. And it just affirmed my theory that on Linux desktop is a bolt-on, like I heard Windows 3.1 was. Basically, I had that image. It's crap, and the whatever desktop environment it was just affirmed that image. Then later that year, one of the professors in computer school had how to fit a whole classroom with old computers and put CentOS on with GNOME 2. And that was even worse thing. I actually think I actually used it just so much as I could for school. So basically I wrote 2 websites and that's it. Basically, I hated GNOME 2 and I still do. It is such I won't say what I think about it. Because
worse than
so
GNOME 3?
Way worse. I can't describe how much I hate GNOME 2. And then it was, I believe, like 2 years ago, right before 1710 arrived. There was the first version of with GNOME 3, Ubuntu 1710, first version with GNOME 3. And one of my professors who up to that point didn't know use Linux came into the classroom all happy saying, is anyone expecting Ubuntu 1710 that today will come out? And I said, not really, because I'm like, I do only servers, I might check it out, but that's it. He said, why do you only servers? Desktop works really great. And he turned on the laptop and basically he showed us the daily build of 1710, or it was daily build. It had the GNOME 3, and from that point I decided I'm gonna try it again, desktop. And 3 months later, I got myself a laptop, an old laptop that I installed 1710 on, and on that laptop I on Linux did the whole end of computer school. I had to do a paper on something. I did on servers, specifically Linux and Windows servers differences and all that. Basically, it was a 30-page essay. 10 pages were required. I kind of got into it. Mainly, it was Linux stuff. Then, about 1 month later, after I actually gave that essay in, that laptop broke. And first thing I was planning to do was buy new laptop. And that's the laptop I have now. And first thing I did, I wiped Windows off of it, installed Linux. But before that, I actually tried something like 30 different Linux distributions to find the perfect one for me through VMs. And now I'm happy with Manjaro. And I don't think anyone will make me get out of it. And I like Linux so much.
So are you completely Linux or you have Windows?
I use Windows mainly because of school, because I do higher education of information technology, and we use Office products in school. Microsoft Office. That's one main reason. Second, I do play some games, specifically Blizzard games, and it's just easier to work. Plus, I mainly think about an operating system more as a tool than something I philosoph about. And for me, it is basically the same using Windows, Linux. So if I'm let's say doing whole day playing games and have to like edit some code, I will do it in Windows. I won't just for that switch to Linux. And
Nice.
okay, I do code in C#. Some that's personally my favorite language, and for that I mostly use Visual Studio because it's the best for C#.
Very nice. Go ahead, Colin.
Just what desktop environment does Big Pod run?
Currently, I run OpenBox. It's a window manager, basically OpenBox. But I also sometimes run GNOME or Mate.
And what base is it? Arch? Is it Ubuntu?
It's Manjaro, so it's Arch.
All right, Manjaro, yeah.
I custom built using Architect Installer, completely custom, no pre-installed desktop environment.
Mm-hmm. You've probably heard of it, but Marbox is also an excellent OpenBox Manjaro derivative.
Heard of it, checked it out, but I like how I set it up myself.
Of course, yeah.
Basically, that was the point of using OpenBox, so I could set it up myself.
Mhm.
However, I liked it.
Yeah.
All right. I hope everybody's enjoying hearing about where you guys are starting, because, like I said, it was one of the most asked questions by the people in the chat and emails and whatnot. So, and I do want to apologize to everybody that, especially this week, I did not get to the emails yet. I see there are a few that are in, and there's many comments on the YouTube videos, like the previous biddles, that I have not got to yet. I will get to the comments, and it's been a busy week this Ritual's in the house. What's going on, brother?
Hey guys, pretty good. Sorry I'm a little late. Still
unexcusable.
Still getting used to the. Well, actually, it's just going to be harder for me to get because I'm on the West Coast over here in the U.S.
Yep.
In California, so it's a little. Usually got stuff going on during the middle part of the day, so but I'm still managing to. I think I've caught the stream. I mean, I think I'm going on some sort of record.
You are.
I've been. I don't know. I'm pretty impressed with myself.
Any thoughts on GNOME or no?
You know what? Surprisingly enough, I kind of liked it. And I mean, full disclosure, I'm kind of a hipster, I guess. I don't know. I use the Arch, and I go beyond just being an Arch hipster. I use a tiling window manager. I'm BSPWM. That's
by the way.
Yeah, by the way, Arch and BSPWM. But so I've gotten really used to that setup that I have, and I really, really like it because of how efficient it is. Everything like just set up perfectly. Certain programs are open up a certain size. I have hidden persistence on some windows, and it's perfect. It's what I like for my main machine. But so I was kind of hesitant on trying GNOME because I have tried it in the past, and I was like not very impressed. But it's been a while, and so this is a good time to try it again. And I actually did like it, and liked it so much that I put it on my laptop. So I got it alongside BSPWM right now. I figure it's going to be a good desktop environment because I'm going to be heading on vacation to Europe in a few weeks with my folks. Yeah, I'm pretty.
Where are you going?
Italy, Rome.
Nice.
To be exact.
Close to me.
Okay, are you in Italy too?
Slovenia, next country over.
Oh, okay. It's all kind of pretty close.
Pretty meshed together.
Yeah.
I think Cubicle Nate went to Italy sometime
recently.
Yep, yeah, I did. It was quite nice. Good food. I like it.
Oh man, was it your first time, Nate?
First time to Italy, not on a military base. Yes.
Oh, well, yeah. I guess that's what matters, huh? But yeah, this is my second time. I absolutely love it. I went to Rome last time. I checked out Florence and Pisa. I checked out those places. So we'll see where we go this time. But anyways, so I'm going with my folks, and I figure I'm going to be bringing my laptop. I figure I'd better bring something that might be somewhat familiar to a Windows user. I mean, if they open up my lap book and see BSPWM, they're not going to know.
No.
Everything's keyboard driven. It's just, and I have hotkeys to everything. It's just, it opens up and you get a terminal. So they'd be so lost. So I figure I'd be nice to them, and if they want to use a laptop, I can load up GNOME and they can kind of get their.
See, I would go with the opposite approach. You know, if it's unfamiliar and they don't want to, then they don't want to touch it. It's perfect.
No, I'm being a nice son. Nice GNOME. So, I mean, there was no way I was going to put Windows on there. I'm not going to be that nice.
Right.
But yeah, so I really was kind of impressed. I don't know what the overall consensus was today with all you guys, but
they all loved it.
Yeah, cool. Like I was,
it was terrific.
Fake news.
No, I thought it was cool. Like I like it seems like they softened up the overall look. It almost kind of reminds me just with the Idwata theme. It almost kind of like has hints of Elementary to it.
Yes.
So, and I mean, and the whole Mac OS thing. So it looks softened up. It looks modern. It's cool for my parents, and it's probably not going to be something I might just wipe it all out when I come back from vacation. Just because I pulled in from the Arch repos the GNOME extras package, and I pulled in like 250 packages.
Wow!
I was like,
all the applications, everything.
Yeah, I was like, ooh. I went from like 600 and something on this small little laptop to 900 packages installed. So it was kind of like, but overall, I mean, I like it. It seems pretty cool. I have to get used to the whole. It's been a while since I used a window manager or a window floating style floating environment. So getting used to that. But I don't know. Overall, I thought it was good enough for me to put on my system here. So
that's
I liked
good.
it. Yeah.
All right. Well, we are out of time already. 2 hours flies when you're having fun.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Last words, Eb.
Thanks very much for doing this every week, Rocco. It is really appreciated. And if you want something that just works, Peppermint OS.
Dan, last word.
Thank you as always, Rocco. And for all those Windows users, they're looking for a place to go. You can always try Ubuntu, which is LXQT. Similar experience. I think you'll like. But no, seriously, glad Gnome's over and looking forward to Budgie. I think I'm going to give Budgie a go. I've enjoyed it in the past, so give it a try again.
Absolutely. Adam.
Thanks for having me on. And for those of you who might have family members who are on Windows 7 and that's going out of style, well, just get them an iPad. Just save them.
I love it. I love it. Big Pod, last word.
Thank you guys for having me. And this week I have a bit of a self-ad. I actually, not that I got my laptop back, I might actually make a video for my YouTube channel. So check out Big Pod on YouTube. Maybe there'll be a new video on there. Maybe.
Cool.
Chris, last word.
Oh, let's see here. I'm looking forward to this challenge this week because I have not done anything with Solus before at all, And I have not done anything with Budgie. I figured let's go with Budgie, see what that's all about. And excuse me, sorry for being a little distracted there. As I mentioned in the pre-show, that we got a new Broomba here at the museum, and it's like a puppy. You gotta tell it not to pee here. And it got caught up on some chairs and some cables and stuff like that. So we got a Broomba proof the museum now. But anyhow, yeah, I enjoy being here every week. And thanks for having this, Rocco. It's been a really good experience so far.
Good having you, Chris. Tyler, last word.
All right. Thanks for having this. I do want to use the last word. Over the last week, the guys down in Wichita announced Kansas Linux Fest is going to happen August 9th to 11th, and they are currently looking for potential speakers. So I thought I'd throw that in there. Like I said, again, thanks for having this, and enjoyed being on here.
Tyler, do you have a link for that? We can put it in YouTube chat. If you put it in the Zoom chat, we'll put it in YouTube chat.
I'll get that there. Yeah, that's kansaslinuxfest.org. There's a chat.
All right. Bash, last word.
Thanks for the stream. And by the way, I will no longer be running Arch.
All right. Okay.
What did I miss? Why not? Why no
the
more?
The challenge
Arch?
next week is Solus.
Okay, so but you can still run Arch. I'm just
It's on the hard drive that I'm putting Solus on, so kind of not.
Wipe it out.
Kind of no. Barbara, last word.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank you again, Rocco, and everybody else for a fun 2 hours. And I've already downloaded Solus for Mate.
Nice.
So I think I'll be putting it on the ThinkPad T420.
It will be interesting to hear your points on it because you love Ubuntu Mate. We'll see how it goes.
Yes, and to see how close they are, how different they are, that type of thing. Can I make it work exactly the same way in both? That kind of fun thing.
All right, Frank, last word.
Thank you, Rocco, and thanks for Zeb being back. We missed him.
Thank you.
I don't have much to say except that the one thing I did do this week is I did some test cases for Ubuntu, and they've gone from blue to black, and that is awesome. So if you do when you do the start screen, it is now black the way it should be.
All right, Colin, last word.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Rocco. I'd also like to echo the words of Bash. We'll no longer be running Arch. That's quite funny. And another thing, if we are going to do another desktop, can I suggest maybe Plasma? Because I do like Plasma. I always find it a very professional-looking desktop. For some reason, I just can't get into it. So I may learn some stuff there if moving forward, if we ever decide to do that. So thanks for the video for today, Rocco, and welcome back, Seb. Good to see you. Well, hope you're feeling much better.
Mm-hmm.
Plasma will definitely be on the list to try for desktop environment.
Sure.
Good.
Last word, Nick.
Hey, thanks again for having us. For having all of us. Me too. I always have fun here. There's a great group of people. You have a great community, and it's just a fun time. And I really look forward to my Saturdays every Saturday. So thank you very much.
Dave, last word.
Thank you, Rocco. Welcome back, Zeb. Thank you all. This is my drug of choice, and this is my fix that helps get me through the rest of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Peter, last word.
I'm so glad that everyone's converting to Solus. This makes my heart so happy.
We're trying it out.
Previous note, I've been missing the last couple of weeks. Life has been busy. Real life comes in. I'm so glad I made it tonight. In the last couple of weeks, I've actually had people on the Biddle Telegram say how much they missed me. I had people in Steve's chat, a guy called Amiga Beast, Ramon. He actually typed to Steve saying, "Where's Peter? I don't know his name for a while." Huh? And that just shows how great a community it is. We had people saying how they miss Zeb. We are all here for each other, and that's fantastic.
I agree. Thomas, last word.
All right. Well, thank you again for having me on the chat this week, despite my audio issues. I also specifically want to thank Rocco. He got a new website for DruggerOS, so now we're no longer at druggeros.ml. We're at druggeros.org.
Nice.
So, thank you. Greatly appreciate that.
Awesome.
And Beta 3 is coming out here in about 2 to 3 hours. So if you want to check that out, I'll probably put a download link somewhere once it gets up. Yeah, thanks.
Eric, last word.
As always, this is the highlight of my week. Thank you for putting this on, having us here. I love this community. These guys are great. I want to convey that I had a bit of a Bob Ross moment this week. If you guys have ever watched Bob Ross and Happy Little Trees, and it's very zen and quiet. Silent Robot has been putting up some video editing tutorials on his channel, and they're very relaxing. They're very informative, but they're also very relaxing. So if you haven't been over to Silent's channel, just going to throw this out there that you need to go check it out, because it's definitely very, very good Linux content.
He's also got that radio voice.
Substitute for Bob Ross.
Yep.
Wednesday morning, I had him on just because it was so good.
Prophetic, last word, brother. Prophetic.
He's muted.
He's zoned out.
Okay, Steve, last word. Hold on, Steve. There you go. Try it now.
No, thank you, Rocco. And yeah, this community's going really great. I might have a chance of meeting two of the community guys this year, Joe Panico and possibly one other with some trips I'm taking, and that would be really cool. I'm looking forward to that, meeting someone in person instead of just here. So thank you guys for making me feel welcome, and we'll see you next week.
All right. We'll be here, brother. JJ.
So thanks, Rocco, for the stream that you do, and thanks for all you guys for coming together. And also would like to promote that we have the Discord after the stream. So if anybody wants to join us post-stream, it's bigdaddylinux.com/Discord. And also, I might want to discuss with you guys two things very important to me. So,
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. How much do you pay for him to say that?
I am not.
It's
I'm
free
not
advertising.
sponsored by Rocco in any way, shape, or form. I am a Discord user, so
free advertising, man. All right, Ritual, last word, brother.
Thank you, Rocco, for having me again. Glad I could make it, even though I was a little late today. Keep the streak alive, whether it be just chatting it up in the chat or making it to the stream or the video nowadays. So glad I can make it every week. It's good to hang out with all you guys. Learn a lot every week and continue learning. So thanks a lot. Good seeing you guys.
All right. I want to say it's awesome to have Zeb back. We missed him the last 2 weeks. Solus Budgie, or I should say Solus 4, is our choice this week. So any desktop environment for that. Check us out on the Telegram, bigdaddylinks/Telegram. If you have any issues with Solus or you have any issues with this specific, somebody will be in there to help you, or just come in and say hi. Other than that, that's all we got. We will see you next week. And remember, long live Linux.
See you later,
See you,
everyone.
everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.